Hello everyone and welcome to Total War through the episodes. Strap in because this episode is going to be a bit of a marathon. We're covering a lot of ground in a very short amount of time. I condensed things down quite a bit. Not as much as I plan to continue further on in the series. I will be even shortening things down even more. But right there, as you saw, Jerusalem is now besieged by the enemy, the Eastern Rebels. It's the Eastern Roman Empire Rebels. I'm going to just call them the Eastern Rebels for the rest of the video. The Eastern Rebels got attacked there and pushed back, which is not great because, hey, they hate the Eastern Roman Empire as much as we do. Right now, we are besieging army of this, I can't remember the settlement name, it's the one right there in the north of Anatolia. We get attacked, and I left this battle in here mostly because it's pretty interesting. It's pretty different from most of our other battles because army composition for this one, as you see, is we're basically all infantry. We only have 3 units of cavalry, not counting our general, and predominantly infantry, which is not something the Sassanids are really good at, and which is why I've avoided it for the most part throughout this series, and certainly at this point in the series I've definitely tried to avoid it. But I wanted to leave this battle in here because this was a rare instance of having a lot of infantry against the Eastern Roman Empire, which again, generally speaking, is not going to work out for us. Assuming the forces are relatively equal in size, we're going to lose a fight where we have mostly infantry against the Eastern Roman Empire. We're not going to win that fight. But in this battle, we are able to, mostly just because the enemy, we way outnumber the enemy, and it allows us to outmaneuver them, surround them, and, give us all the advantages that, of course, outnumbering the enemy does. So as right there, we send our horse archers to go deal with the enemy reinforcements, which are the garrison of the city we were besieging. So if we wipe them out, we will capture the city without any siege necessary, which is actually also the goal, which is really dumb. I don't get why the AI does this all the time, but they basically attack, even though if they lose, it means we capture the city. So yeah, kind of stupid, but whatever. And we wipe out the enemy main force relatively easily with our infantry, and then our horse archers are harassing the enemy reinforcements until ultimately we bring the rest of our force to bear and we capture, and we wipe them out entirely, no survivors. And then we're able to capture the city. Again, no siege necessary. We capture it, exterminate the populace, gives us quite a bit of money in the bank from doing so. And as right there, death stalks the land. That's the first, but certainly not the last time we have to deal with a plague outbreak, so that's not great. Right here, we secure a trade agreement as well as a military alliance with the Eastern Roman rebels. So again, the Eastern rebels, as I will be calling them to shorten the name, the Eastern rebels were able to secure an alliance and a trade agreement with them, which is great. Unfortunately, they're a weird thing where they're a faction that pops in and out of existence, so that's kind of weird. So our alliance doesn't last between multiple iterations of them, but either way, we have one for right now. Here we go, hop into this battle. We're going to be taking out the enemy army. We have an entirely cavalry army here, which I basically cut out the entire battle because it's pretty obvious what happens. I have a bunch of horses on the flanks, a bunch of horses in the center, and we outmaneuver the enemy. We outmaneuver the enemy and ultimately surround them and pick them apart. So it's pretty straightforward. That battle fought very similar to how all of our other battles have fought when we've had armies that are entirely made up of cavalry. I used the same basic tactics. The only difference with that battle is it was on a larger scale than any of our previous ones, but we will have some battles later on in the campaign that are even bigger scale, which I will focus on those a little bit more when they come up. Right here, we basically sent a small force to attack the Eastern Roman Empire, who were besieging the Eastern rebel-held city, and we're like, hey, they're our allies. They're our allies. Back off. They're our friends, and we want them to remain in control of the city, even though long-term wise, I would kind of like to capture the city, but right now, more than anything, more than me owning the city, I'd rather just the Eastern Roman Empire not own it. So right now, I'm more than happy to just let the Eastern rebels own some of the cities if that means it weakens the Eastern Roman Empire, because that's a net benefit to me. So there we go. Pretty straightforward battle there. Again, it's all cavalry. Whenever we're using an all cavalry force, I use the exact same tactics because they work every time. Do a bit more scouting, and that city right there to the west of our spy, that is going to be one of our next targets. And you will see, I start kind of planning to build an army up. It's actually going to be this army of all cavalry more than likely, even though we'll probably just hire a couple mercenaries to run a siege equipment once we get close in. But the goal is to have a predominantly cavalry army go. They can get there fast enough, hire 1 or 2 units of mercenary infantry, and then we'll be all set to capture that city. which, as I said, is the next target. Right here, Civil Revolt kicks our garrison army out of the settlement, which is so frustrating and infuriating, and I hate Civil Revolts, and I hate how they function in this game especially. It's so dumb, and I hate it so much. That's probably the most frustrating thing I had to deal with in this campaign, were the excessive amounts of Civil Revolts. That was one of... I don't think that was the first one, but it was one of the first ones, and as you see, they get even worse later on, and it drives me crazy. Another easy victory right here. We way outnumber the enemy, no problem. Just skip over that one. Right here, we get attacked, and this battle we are going to spend a bit more time on. In fact, basically the rest of this episode is going to be dedicated to this one, because this battle was very interesting. One, because this is not our usual army composition. As I mentioned earlier, this is the same army that has mostly infantry, only a few units of cavalry. We do have a 4th additional unit of horse archers, because when we did capture the city, we did hold the settlement for like 2 turns, I think, before the Civil Revolt kicks us out. So we were able to we did have enough time to recruit 1 more unit of horse archers before we got kicked out. So again, you're going to see pretty predictable. We do really well on the flanks where all cavalry is located, and we do terrible in the center where our infantry is, because our infantry is crap, and when going up against a sizable Eastern Roman Empire force of infantry, we're just not going to stand a chance. So I had a fairly loose formation, largely because I was hoping to try and get some flank charges off, but the enemy forces kind of clumps up, and we go ahead and countercharge with most of our infantry, taking on basically counter. As you see here, we're countercharging, trying to get some of the fights going before they're able to bring all their infantry to bear. It doesn't work. Our 1 unit of infantry, that's the first one to charge in, routs almost instantly, and they're just like, nope, yeah, we're not going to stand up to the heavy infantry. It doesn't work. So our center is already beginning to break. Our first unit routed right there. We do get a couple of the enemy a couple of the enemy cavalry units to rout early on right there on the left flank. Our right flank is doing pretty well, getting some skirmishing done. We're going to go for their siege engines in the back, but as you see, our center is completely routing. Well, not completely yet, but it's very close to almost our entire center routing. Now our general unit, we basically kind of abandoned the center and just focused on the flanks at that point, because it's like, yeah, our infantry is not going to win that fight. So I was hoping to try and utilize our cavalry to maximum effect and try and pick off units one by one, which again, our center routing, as you see in the background there, obviously that's a bad thing, but the one benefit is that because a bunch of our units are routing, a bunch of the enemy units are chasing them. So this does give us a slight advantage in that the enemy army is very split up and very separated right now. So that's perfect situation for us to utilize our cavalry and pick off units one by one with, surrounding them with cavalry and charging in simultaneously. However, we're able to do that to some effect. As you see, we are able to mop up some of the enemy units that are kind of in, back towards where the main fight happened, as the rest of the enemy army is chasing after our units. A couple of units of spearmen rally here. Doesn't matter. They break almost instantly once they get back. Once they get back into a fight, they rout almost instantly. And then, as you saw, most of our cavalry are gone now. This was kind of a worthwhile sacrifice, but the other 3 units of horse archers, we basically had to sacrifice them to finish off the enemy cavalry. There was like 1 unit of enemy cavalry left, and combined all of our cavalry, actually edited it out, but the rest of our cavalry were able to combine against them and take out, so the enemy have no cavalry left, which allows us to win this battle by using a super cheap tactic. Please don't judge me. I was really salty and angry after the Civil Revolt happened, that I was like, you know what? No. This army, the Civil Revolt, it's stupid. I hate it as a mechanic. It's dumb how it works. And was really mad, and I was like, nope, I refuse to lose this battle. So I used the cheapest tactics there is, and I ran down the clock, because we are the defending army, so if we just run out the time, we win. So my general units just runs around the outside of the field, because the enemy has no cavalry to catch me, and we win the battle. So I do apologize. That's an incredibly cheap tactic. Please don't judge me, but it does allow us to get a fleet over. Our army survives. Our army is able to board that fleet, and the fleet's going to take them back to the city where they originated from to get them strengthened back up to full strength before we launch a new attack against that northern settlement, because I want that northern settlement so bad. I'm so frustrated because of that Civil Revolt. We are going to capture that, and we are going to hold it next time. Either way, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to check back for more, and as always, till next time.